It seems the illegal cigarette trade will thrive due to the ban on legal sales in the country. The continued ban forms part of the state's regulations governing the COVID-19 lockdown and has been in place since March the 27th. Chad Thomas is the CEO of the IRS Forensic Investigations and he joins me now via Skype. Chad, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Good evening to you.
Chad, I guess this is not just about smoking, but also what South Africans are drinking, in particular, at a time like this where the sale of alcohol and cigarettes is banned.
Well, there's been an issue with cigarettes sold illicitly as well as alcohol sold illicitly for some time now, and most of the reporting has been on cigarettes in particular, and we've known about illicit tobacco and how serious actors within that environment have allegedly been involved in state capture, etc. What people haven't realized is that we've had as big a problem with the illicit sale of liquor, both counterfeit as well as liquor that's produced illegally using ethanol, flavorants, colorants, etc., which is exceptionally dangerous. Of course, now that the normal sales of cigarettes and alcohol have been made illegal, we're sitting with a situation where far more people are buying the illegal cigarettes that are available and the illegal alcohol that's available. And what this in turn has done is just opened up a bigger market for organized crime syndicates. These syndicates have existed historically, but now they have far more of a market share. And one has to remember that prohibition in the United States was the single biggest contributor to the growth in organized crime many, many years ago. So we are going to now sit with a historical generational problem because these new markets have been opened up to the public.
And at a time where you have borders that are closed, I mean, how do they get this into the country? Is it a collaboration of these syndicates working at these borders, for example? How do you best describe how all of this is able to happen?
Well, the border closure, and it's a hard border closure, hasn't impacted on illicit sales of cigarettes and illicit sales of alcohol because there's been a large stockpile of that for the illicit market for quite some time. They've obviously, there were units involved in investigating this. Crime intelligence was very active at a stage together with SARS to investigate these syndicates. But these guys have stockpiled and they do have resources available to them. A lot of them. The product is manufactured in South Africa. If you look at the illicit alcohol, for example, the ethanol normally comes from Swaziland. There are porous areas along our border where stuff can still come across. But the border closure has also had another impact with regards to the illegal sale of alcohol and liquor. And that is the fact that due to these severe restrictions on our borders, the organized crime gangs that traditionally dealt in illicit substances such as mandrax, cocaine, tick, etc., can no longer import methacholine powder to make mandrax, pseudoephedrine to make tick or crystal meth, as well as cocaine to turn into crack, etc. So they've now had to turn to other markets, and they're now effectively taking control of the illegal cigarette and alcohol market, specifically in areas where the gangs have a stronghold. Investigative journalist Henriette Caldenhuys recently wrote on social media how two major gang leaders on the Cape Flats had reached an agreement in terms of turf as to where they would deal in illicit tobacco and illicit alcohol because there was a shortage of other hard drugs that they would normally deal in. We've also seen a very marked increase in robberies of business premises which stock alcohol, etc.
I mean, if you look at the health implications here, this must be quite major because you obviously don't know what is contained in these, if I can, fake cigarettes and this alcohol that is being brought in with different kind of packaging, which isn't really the real deal.
No, I agree completely. The health implications we already know are bad for smokers and for drinkers if done excessively. But when you're now drinking something that's been bootlegged or created illicitly, it can lead to death, it can lead to blindness. The cigarette, tobacco, etc., that's going into these illegal packs of cigarettes, we don't know what's in there. If it was a lawful product, you would believe what was written on the side of the box. An unlawful product being counterfeit in nature, they can put anything into that tobacco and anything into the liquor in the bottles.
I heard you say in a recent interview that, goods are also being dumped in South Africa and the taxman is basically not getting his share. About 100 million per day is what you said. Is that correct?
Yes, there was a recent conference held involving business leadership, South Africa, Business Against Crime, Tax Justice, etc. And those figures were thrown around that between 100 and 200 million rand per day is being lost due to the illicit market. But one must remember this was prior to the lockdown. That was the average cost that the illicit market is costing South Africa. In total, if one looks at tobacco and alcohol that's brought into South Africa, either as a counterfeit product or as a product that isn't declared, it was already in excess of 10 billion rand per annum. When one looks at the markets that have been opened up now in respect of the illicit market, etc., we're not just losing that money, but we're also losing the normal money that the taxpayer would be earning on these products, as well as the VAT that would be earned on these products should they have been sold through the normal channels. The cost to our fiscus is significant. And one must remember it's not just as a result of the fact that product is being sold illicitly, it's also because the fact that legal product can no longer be sold.
Thank you very much indeed for your time. I'm afraid that's where we're going to have to leave it tonight. Chad Thomas, the CEO of the IRS Forensic Investigations. Clearly, the illicit trade sector is booming at the moment. The black market is booming as a result, of course, of the non-sale of cigarettes and alcohol. And those certainly who are running that market are finding an opportunity to run a business there, costing the economy billions. Let's move on to other stories.